I am delighted to say that we are now joined on the line by Alan Quinlan. Good morning to you, Quiddy.
Morning, lads. How are you?
Star of the stage and screen, and the big screen and the small screen and the silver one and all besides. How's the reaction to the show been for you?
It's been very good, thanks. Yeah, it's taken a few days. I was nervous about the whole process and how it would come across and stuff, but I think it's been good. And like I said to you last week, I think the whole goal was to try and put something together that I'd get experiences and be able to interview and talk to other people and maybe put something out there that would help people and encourage them and probably from a sporting point of view, which we obviously we talk about a lot, is just dealing with that pressure in sport. And Mark Smith, the clinical psychologist for Rugby Players Ireland, and I'm sure we'll talk about it again, and probably the social media scenario with sport. It's really interesting listening to John Klein was kind of rolled out from Munster this week in the media, and he was talking about the social media, being off social media because of the reactionary selection in the World Cup. And so that's social media kind of story in sport. It'll just go on and on. And, it's interesting the effect it can have on people. But look, I'm really happy. I think it's something there's parts of it that are very hard hitting, and then there's other parts of it from a sporting point of view that are really interesting, even still to this day to me.
We'll come back to the Sean Klein bit maybe in a minute, but one of the things that sort of jumped out for me was the you're sort of in your head thinking, well, this is only me feeling this way, particularly around, there was the bit about the catastrophising, Quinny, that you were talking to one of the contributors that you had on the show, like that imposter piece, you know what I mean? What he was kind of saying, well, look, actually, when you think about it, there's a load more players around the dressing room having the exact same thought. Is that something that has only recently sort of come into your thinking, that actually I wasn't really alone in this, there was a load more people thinking the same thing? Or what's been the reaction to that bit specifically?
Yeah, no, it's definitely something that sport is different, I think, nowadays, Adrian, and people. I often meet some of my ex-teammates and we say thankfully there was no real social media presence when we were playing, because like Mark Smith said in the documentary, it's very rare that you have a situation when you go to work and people can critique your work while you're doing it. Not many people experience that, and it heightens the pressure of your performance, and you're aware and conscious of it. Their every move, every step for any high performing athlete, individually or in a team sport, everybody comments on it. And obviously, and I think sports people say, well, I don't read the papers and I try and stay away from it, and probably getting a balance in that. But you hear things and you hear comments, and particularly for GA players, I think, they're amateur guys who've given a hell of a lot of commitment and sacrifice, and even in club games throughout the country, in rural parts of Ireland, Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, in local communities, people talk about that. So looking around the dressing room, I always thought, and everybody was different, because different guys had different routines before matches, and that made them calm and relaxed. I had a kind of a ritual before any match. When we got to the stadium, I would always leave down my bag, get my seat, organise my gear a little bit, and then head out onto the pitch. And I would do kind of half a lap of the pitch, and then end up trying to do some visualisation to make me calm under the post. And that was just something I did for every game, no matter where it was. And that gave me a little bit of calmness and stopped most of that catastrophising. But I suppose if you're losing control of that, and you're in a tough place, because sport, so many ups and downs, isn't there? And if you're on a losing run and you start to hear and feel the negativity that's out there, it can really hamper your performance. So it's something that is heightened in modern day sport, and it's about getting help and support for that. And most teams, even amateur sports, have access to psychologists and sports psychologists to try and keep their confidence and self-belief high. So that's a continuing situation, even at the very, very top of professional sport.
Yeah, and have you mentioned about speaking to some of your former teammates, like that element of the catastrophizing, you know, on all sorts of scales, and, you know, that sort of lack of assurance or that imposter syndrome. I think the more you talk to people in any industry, including this one, that you find that people are somewhere on that scale at some point in their week, most weeks. Have you found that's been a conversation you've been able to have with former teammates, that you might have thought, geez, that fellow was so assured of himself and so confident, so cocky, and actually in reality wasn't really the case?
But even for me, who, when I speak about this, Adrian, it's not something that I would have had all the time. You know, if you're in a good place and your team are doing well and you're winning and you feel secure in any sort of environment, even away from sport, you have a calmness. But if self-doubt creeps in, or you're coming back from an injury, or you're carrying a knock, or there's some sort of performance pressure there, that's when that negative voice can come in and start playing havoc with you. But it's about the balance. You know, I remember so well, I forget lots of parts of my career, but I remember before the 2008 final, you know, being in a good place, because 2006 I had the injury and I came on at the end, and I was the happiest substitute ever to be part of a match day squad. Finally won it, got on the field for a few minutes, didn't touch the ball, didn't make a tackle, didn't hit a ruck, ran around for 4 minutes, thinking, blow the whistle, I don't care, I've nothing to, I don't care if I don't do it, saying, you know, the way substitutes come on the field, you want to get stuck in, you want to get the ball, you want to do something. I didn't care, I just wanted that whistle. And that was a culmination of, you know, 9 or 10 years of being part of the group, and finally just being there. 2008 was different. I was fit, I was strong. It was on the back of the World Cup season where, you know, I had that frustration not playing at the World Cup, turned it into a positive and trained really hard and came home really fit, started playing really well for Munster, and obviously we get to a final and I'm in a good place. But I sat in the dressing room in the Vale at Lam, or in the room with Rog. We roomed together, and I just remember that the nerves, they were good nerves, you know what I mean? They were like anticipation. We knew we were playing a great Toulouse side, but it was really good nerves. So it's important to remember, and I don't want to put this across, that, you know, I went out every time and I'm in a ball of negativity. I'm not. It's just controlling that, and sometimes it's on the back of bad performance, or making mistakes, or catastrophizing the possibility of it going wrong. Being in the room that night, I remember a calmness around the nerves. We were both very nervous, but we were really looking forward to it. So there's a balance, and sometimes people need help with that balance to use those nerves in a positive way to really stimulate you.
How much was that down to you sharing a room with Ronan on the night? Like, was there certain members of the team that had a more calming influence?
Yeah, there always is. You know what I mean? It wasn't solely down to it. I think it was down to probably just having a good run that season myself, Adrian, and Eoin, and being happy with my fitness. And so for any sports person, if you can tick most of the boxes around your strength, fitness, your conditioning and all that stuff, and you're in a good place and you're in the back of some good performances, and you're in a team with strong, resilient people, that helps. It doesn't matter who you're rooming with, but you know, obviously when you're with someone, like I would have always looked, Rog would have been one of the people I would have looked at, that he was very kind of hyper energetic throughout the week, but he was really calm as well, and he had that strong natural resilience. So of course the likes of him would help. You know, I always say this about, and I've been asked about it this week, about Axel, and his anniversary is on Saturday. It's unbelievable. I think it's 5 years. He was someone who oozed in that kind of calmness, and people, that feeds out to people, you know, around him, because it's about the challenge or the situation you're about to face. And when you have someone who's a lot of experience and has a really calm temperament, who goes, well, it'll be fine, it'll be grand. And that's the way Axel always kind of was. You know, I played with him in a Shannon team when I was under 20s, and right through to a very successful Shannon team that won 4 All-Ireland leagues in the late 90s. And we were a very successful club side. But and I was young and probably full of the wildness and energy that you like to have, but not being able to control that, and being overzealous in my performances, and just playing with him. I used to say to him before games, just if I get a bit hyper here and I'm shouting at the referee or my teammates or the opposition, just calm me down. And sometimes I would just look at Axel, or he would just look at me and say, "It's grand, Quinny, calm down, relax." And it was that little trigger that just took away that catastrophization that was going on, or that just lack of control. And so some players, obviously, Paul was brilliant. Guys who become captains, Jim Williams, Mick Galway, Keith Wood, these guys, they help people who are, and everybody is different. And going back to what Adrian asked at the start, you're in a dressing room with so many different characters, and most of us are trying to put on a front that everything is calm and everything is controlled. And usually when you go out onto the fields, we're all fine because we can do it there. But sometimes it's the build-up that kind of exhausts you, So there's always an intrigue about getting the emotion right, getting the tempo right in any sport, and using it in a positive way.
When you spoke about Anthony there, you had a smile came across your face. A lot of fond memories. Alan, I wonder, do you, 5 years on, it seems incredible in some ways that from the outside looking in, it seems to have gone. It seems like yesterday that those events were unfolding in some ways. Do you think about him a bit more this week, or where are your thoughts at?
Of course you do, because his name has been mentioned. It's out there that Munster are going to honour him. It's just strange at times to think that, because I had so many experiences with Axel in my life, and he was an integral part of my rugby career. He was just always there. That it's just hard to believe that the time has kind of gone so quickly. And so you try and think of the good times, and I was asked a couple of times from various different people this week about happy memories, and they kind of jump to mind, loads of those. So you try and remember him in a really good way, in a positive way. His son scored a try for Munchins during the week. They're little moments that you kind of think, I think how proud Axel himself would have been and how happy he would have been. His nephew scored as well, played for Munchins, and so it's those kind of moments that you think about, and it's just hard to believe that the time has gone so quickly. And you think about that week and what happened to him and the whole situation. And look, I always have the regret, and it always comes back to me. And this is maybe my catastrophizing of criticising Munster when Anthony was there on Sky a long number of years ago. That kind of regret of actually, being in a situation where I'm criticising a team that one of my closest friends and someone I soldiered with for so long is the coach. So that's part of the catastrophizing that's still going on. But
he would have known, Quinny, I presume. I don't know if you ever had a chance to talk to him about it, but it was coming from a place like, the one thing that anybody who listens to this show with any regularity or anything that you have to say is that the place that Munster did and still does obviously hold for you. That's the source, obviously, of that, where that criticism is coming from.
Yeah, it was. And look, I haven't spoken about this, but I got in touch with Anthony after that pretty much straight away, and he responded to me with, a very polite kind of response. It wasn't a case of he was fuming with me. He understood where I was coming from, and we ended up speaking about it a lot. We went away at the end of that season we had a reunion in Portugal with the 06 team, and we had a few drinks together. Look, it's something that I wish just didn't happen. It was like you and me, Adrian, having a chat about a team's performance, and it just came out, frustration, anger out of me. But look, it is what it is, and it probably was coming from a place of just frustration and not wanting Munster to do well, and I still to this day want him to do well. And I knew he'd given his whole life to Shannon, to Munster, to Ireland, and there's a part of me just wish, God, I could have. I wish they were winning, and I didn't have to, critique them in any way. But it was coming from a place of not the team, or not anyone's performance. It was just, I thought things should have been better and needed to be better, and the structures needed to be better, and he needed more support. I think there was part of me, and I still to this day think he needed more resources. He needed more